I'm just getting one. That's it. Just one tattoo.
It's hilarious. You have I can see 5.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I've got almost 2 full sleeves. Got quite a few on my legs. Yeah. My chest is covered. So.
Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to the Pointman podcast. My name's Zach. This podcast is here for the sole purpose to help men connect with their Bible, to learn and to grow and to develop that relationship with Jesus through conversation and through understanding and learning through Scripture. But today we have a really cool conversation we're going to have. We have a special guest, Nick, who is here. Nick is a professional tattoo artist. Is that the best way to?
Yeah, that's the best way to put it.
And we're going to have an interesting conversation. Tattoos are kind of a taboo a little bit in faith, but it's also kind of an interesting culture, I think, that guys who are in it really like it. There's some questions about it, and I just wanted to sit down with you and to have a conversation about kind of your faith and how it's developed, how it interacts with your career. I was listening to a conversation one time with, it was a pastor, and he was talking about how in his specific section of faith, the smartest and the most talented people all become pastors. So it doesn't matter if they're the most artistic, the most creative, the smartest, the best at medicine, politics, whatever, they all become pastors. And so what it does is it causes this whole denomination of believers to only aspire to one thing. Mm-hmm. And through this conversation and through future conversations that we're going to have here, I want to talk to guys who have excelled in different spaces to show that a believer's space can be broader, that their reach can be had in other spaces and other places, and especially in unique places where you may have conversations with people that I would never get to speak to, or I would never get the opportunity to, and maybe even instances where guys would never come into a church in the first place.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's why we wanted to do this, why we wanted to have this conversation, and we appreciate you coming on and
thanks for having me on.
Hopping on and doing this. It's awesome. So tell me a bit about like where you come from, kind of your background, where you kind of came to know Jesus and that kind of setup.
I grew up in Searcy.
Okay.
I actually lived in Heber Springs, and I was born in Searcy. And then we moved there when I was in like kindergarten. I've done art my whole life.
Yeah.
My parents knew early on that that's what I was going to do. Just didn't know what I was going to do with it.
Yeah.
I actually used to watch Bob Ross on TV.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you guys have heard of Bob Ross.
My kid back there, he always talks about he watched it when he was a kid.
Bob Ross is the best. But yeah, so I grew up in church off and on. I was kind of baptized through like Methodist teaching. So like after I was born, I was baptized. I don't remember it, but we went to church off and on. Went to a bunch of different churches. My mom would want to check one out, so she'd be like, "Hey, let's go to this church." It would just be me and her. My dad wasn't real religious. Have an older brother, also not real religious. He would just kind of follow suit with my dad. But I took art classes forever until the art teacher was like, "Hey, I can't really show you anything else. You need to go do something else.
Yeah,
you need to like do paintings or do whatever." It was just for drawing.
That's a pretty cool place to get to.
I mean, it was cool, but she only did drawing, and so she was like, "You should do painting. You should do watercolor. You should do, sculpting or whatever." And she didn't do any of that stuff, so it kind of pushed me to go to some other classes. I honestly had no interest in doing tattoos until I was in college.
When did you get your first tattoo?
The day I turned 18.
Okay.
Yeah. I wanted one when I was 17, but my mom was not having it.
Yeah.
She was like, "I'm not taking you to get one," because you have to have an adult, your parent with you to sign for you. I was like, "All right, well, the day I turn 18, I'm going to get a tattoo." And she's like, "Well, I can't stop you. So I guess it is what it is." And so literally the day I turned 18, I was sitting in the chair getting a tattoo.
As they've become more popular, are people getting them younger? Is it becoming more regular?
It surprises me the amount of parents that bring their kids at like 16. 16 is the youngest in the state of Arkansas.
Okay.
There used to not be a law, which is really scary. I've tattooed some 15 and even a 14-year-old before they changed the laws.
Oh, wow.
The amount of parents that will bring their kids in and let them get a tattoo on their hand, on their neck, like insane.
Yeah.
Just not thinking for their future. Which I know tattoos are more accepted these days, but you don't see a lot of doctors with neck tattoos. You don't see a lot of lawyers, walking around with their hands tattooed. So I guess it just depends on what they're gonna do.
I did see
in
a
the
tattoo
future.
artist that I follow on Instagram. He was posting, it was a reel, and it was like what all his clients are.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, this one's a doctor. And it's
Yeah.
like whole body was like bodysuit from neck down, was
Yeah.
completely covered. I was like, that's hilarious. Like you were marketing for your these other segments to come in
Absolutely,
and get
but you'll
tattooed.
notice theirs are always covered, with a
Right.
professional shirt, or there's, their scrubs they have to wear. It's always covered.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure.
That's interesting. Yeah. I guess when I was a kid, tattoos were like, I remember my grandpa being like, I'll cut it off or I'll burn it off. Like,
Yeah.
you're not getting a tattoo. And now it's like, I have some. You did one of mine not long ago. That's how we met. And it's so funny now to see him even like accept the fact that we have them. My brother has a bunch too. My mom's like, she's like, just don't do your neck and face. And I'm like, well, I
Yeah.
promise I won't do my face.
Yeah,
That's where I'm at.
my grandpa was not too excited when I started doing tattoos. He's very old school. He passed away in 2020, but he was not all about it until he saw that I was providing for my family,
Right.
and I was still the same person. I didn't change,
Mhm.
Well, I changed, but for the better, But when he first walked into our house that we had built, he was like, I guess you're doing okay. I don't know what he thought before that,
Yeah.
like where was I living, or what kind of
Mhm.
house was I in, or, were we living somewhere sketchy? But he eventually admitted that he was proud. So
That's really
pretty
cool.
I have a voicemail on my phone from him from when he told me he was proud of me. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to delete that one.
Have you ever, is there a way to get it off so you can keep it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
It's on the iPhone, so I'm sure there's a way to record it on something else
Yeah,
and get
that's
it
true.
off, but it's just on there.
That's interesting. That's really cool. Yeah, it's the tattoos are just such an interesting culture. Has it been how has it interacted with your faith? So you grew up and you said were you Methodist growing up for the majority, or was that just kind of where you started?
That's just kind of where I guess my mom's parents were. They were
Mhm.
Methodist. And so when I would go to church with them, it was kind of boring,
Yeah.
because it's very like hymnals, and you stand up and you sing, and then you sit down and you're quiet.
Yep.
And you listen, and that's it. There's no interaction. There's nothing crazy going on. There's like, if someone makes a noise, other people turn and look at you. You know what I mean? So it was
Your
just
parents like flick you on the ear from down there.
exactly. So if my grandma didn't have candy in her purse, like I was drawing on the little pamphlets that they handed out.
Yeah.
But besides that, I never claimed to be a denomination until I had met my wife. But when we've been to, so I grew up Methodist, went to Church of Christ. We went to non-denominational. We went to Seventh-day Adventist before.
Okay.
I've been to a Mormon church before. There's a couple I haven't been to. I've never been to like a Catholic church. I've never been to Jehovah's Witness or anything. So I kind of experienced like a wide range of like what is there. And I guess my mom was just searching for, what felt right.
Mm-hmm.
And she would mostly base it on the people, how nice they were. But I remember us talking. We would go to church, we would leave, and she'd be like, "What'd you think?" And like we had gone to a Mormon church, and I was like, "I don't know. This one was kind of different." I was like, they brought out another book, and it was kind of strange, the stuff they were talking about. But
that's good discernment from a kid,
yeah,
from a young person, for sure.
But I don't know. We just kind of, she would be like, "Hey, I want to go to this new church that we drove past." And I was like, "Okay, I'll go with you." So it was just me and my mom usually when we would go. But it wasn't until about junior high, probably 8th grade, one of my friends invited me to church. It was over the summer. And so they did all these like crazy youth group things, just to try to get new kids to come through the summer.
Right.
And that's kind of really where it took off for me, being interested in things.
Yeah.
Being interested in going to church, making friends at church, making connections like with leaders and pastors and stuff, and then inviting people. That's kind of where it kicked off. And then off and on through like teenage years, sometimes I would go, sometimes I wouldn't, just kind of.
Do you think that having a dad that wasn't the catalyst for like your faith held you back from like until you were in that teenage space where your friend was kind of the spark that started your interest?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if anybody had two parents that were on the same page of like, we're going to church, it's Sunday, let's go, it would probably have been different. I don't know if my brother would have still been on board. He probably would have gone just because he was being forced to go, but I enjoyed going. I thought it was fun, something to do. It's Sunday, it's time to go to church, because that's what everybody else did that we knew. And so it was just kind of like
Because you're in Searcy, so that's like Church of Christ Central in Arkansas.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Harding being there. Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if, too, like, as a creative person, church has got a lot of creative aspects of it. It's got the music. It has some pageantry, especially if you went to a Methodist church as a kid. I grew up in a Methodist church, and then similar, actually, Methodist non-denominational Church of Christ, and now I'm here at that church. But there's some of those, like, creative elements. And around here, we even have, we have this podcast. We have lights and media and all kinds of stuff that we do now. So I wonder if it just kind of sparked some of that like creative juice that you already had going.
I just remember they were doing this youth group thing, and it was through the summer, and they would have like lock-ins when lock-ins were still a thing.
Yeah.
And then they would have all these little, like, they would play games, like who could drink a bottle of Sprite the fastest, and who could, just all these things, and you were on teams, and it was just like, it's something I'd never experienced at any other church before. And I knew that was just something they were doing through the summer to try to bring, new kids in and make it interesting. And that's when like it was cool for my age group to go to school, to go to like a Bible, anything. And so that's definitely what sparked it for me.
So whenever you were you're an artistic kid, you're growing up, you get your first tattoo at 18. When did you know that was what you were going to do?
So funny enough, when I turned 18, I wanted to get a tattoo, but I only wanted one. I didn't want to get sleeves. I didn't want, bag piece, nothing. I just wanted one tattoo to say that I got a tattoo, like mark it off my list, and then that was it.
It's like buying a lottery ticket. And
exactly. Like, I'm 18, I can do this. I'm going to get a tattoo.
Yeah.
But I was probably 23, 24 when I actually really thought about it. I was in college. I didn't know what my career was going to be for sure, how hard it would be to get a job, fresh out of college, being just an art major. And so I was like, I think I should learn to tattoo as a backup. This is going to be my backup plan.
That's funny.
Yeah. And so honestly, that's all it was at first. And then until I did my first couple of tattoos, and then I was like, all right,
this is it.
I like this.
Yeah. Is there an aspect of the whole process that you like the most? Like the thing that stands out when you think, like, I love my job because...
So as an artist, and I'm sure a lot of others can relate that are artistic, instant gratification is something you find in tattoos.
Okay.
You start the tattoo, you finish the tattoo, you get the client's reaction, which is usually a positive reaction. Sometimes they're happy, sometimes they cry, like a happy cry. It's a memorial piece, whatever. And then you get paid for it.
Yeah.
Where in other mediums of art, it's like you try to work on a painting, it takes you weeks, takes you months, and then you finish it, and then you're like, who likes it?
Yeah.
Who wants to buy it? No one? Okay. And so you're just kind of like, in a way, you're kind of like, was that good? Was it not good? I know social media changed a lot of things with all art mediums,
right?
Especially with tattoos. But
yeah, I follow tons of tattoo artists, but I also follow tons of people who paint and do other types of art as well. I'm not overly artistic at all, but I can respect it, I guess, and can see the beauty in things that, like, otherwise I'd like, what's the fellow down in Miami who does lots of like super interesting, it's like John, I can't remember his name, but he does this like crazy, like abstract looking art stuff. He'll do it on cars. He'll make figurines and stuff out of it.
Okay.
It's like I never would have seen this guy if I hadn't come across his Instagram page.
Yeah, and social media to me, it just kind of shows the process of whatever the art medium is. And that's what makes it interesting. And when people can see, some people post videos of like the blank skin, the stencil going on, and then like partial tattoo, and then finished, and then, panning the whole thing. And it's like, wow, that's kind of what makes it more desirable, I guess. That's kind of what really made it take off. I guess tattooing really didn't take off hugely until like TV shows started.
Yeah, like the Ink Masters.
Yeah, Miami Ink, I think, was the very first one that I ever saw.
Is that the one with Kat? Was that where Kat Von D came from?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or where she first got popular?
Her show stemmed off of that one.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I guess that was probably. I remember the early Ink Masters being on like Spike TV, and seeing that and being like, "Oh, that's pretty cool."
Yeah.
I was the kid who I didn't want any. I guess because I grew up so conservatively, like with my grandpa being that way, and me not being personally artistic, that I was like, I don't ever want one. And then as soon as I got the first one, I was like, I will probably never stop doing this.
Yeah. After my first one, it was probably 2.5, 3 years maybe before I got my second one.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was really dead set. I was like, I'm just getting one. That's it. Just one tattoo.
It's hilarious. You have I can see 5.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I've got almost 2 full sleeves. Got quite a few on my legs. my chest is covered. So
How many did you? I've seen like in like videos and TV shows and stuff where they have to tattoo themselves. How many times have you had to tattoo yourself, or have you tattooed yourself?
So when I was an apprentice, I tattooed myself once. I did a whole tattoo, just to say I tattooed myself. But I kind of knew that it's just better to let other people tattoo you, because if you're practicing on yourself, and being right or left-handed, you're limited to what you can tattoo, what you can reach. And so most of the time it'd be a visible tattoo. If it's not very good, that's what people see. And when people see a not good tattoo on an artist, they think, they're probably not very good. But I did one. I had an apprentice one time. He was doing one on my leg, and I was helping him. So that kind of counts as I was tattooing myself.
I would say it counts, yeah.
And then I got a tattoo done in Texas by a really cool artist. And I didn't take care of it. It didn't heal very good. It was on my hand. So I was like, instead of going back to Texas, I'm just going to touch it up because I'm right-handed. No big deal. It was a little hard to wipe and tattoo, because it's like one-handed thing. But those are the only ones that I've done myself.
Feels like there's an invention of like some kind of wiping glove.
Yeah, there's got to be something. Maybe I could have like had a roll of paper towels and just like wipe my hand on it. But
that'd be interesting.
Yeah,
that's super cool. All right, cliche tattoo question though. All the places you've been tattooed, what's the most painful?
So it may sound weird, but for everybody, it's different.
Yeah.
Some people are more sensitive than others. But for me personally, middle of the chest, and then this one that touches my neck that just kind of barely comes up.
Yeah.
That to me was the worst one that I've had.
Is it because it's on your neck, you think?
I guess so. I don't know. But it goes from like shoulder to shoulder all the way across my collarbones. And it really wasn't too bad until it hit my neck. And I was like, because I really want to get one side of my neck done. But just because of that, I'm not so sure. I got to really, really think about it.
I got my inner bicep done, and he was down here like near my elbow, and it started hurting like up here. And I was like, that's going to be real, because it goes up into my armpit. And he was like, I was like, that's going to hurt really bad when we get there. He was like, yeah, I just wasn't going to tell you until we got there.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it was rough.
Yeah. When we know a tattoo's going to hurt really bad, we try to like ease people into it. You know, we won't just right out of the gate be like, this one's going to hurt.
Yeah.
We'll start going and be like, this part's not too bad, right? And they're like, yeah. And then as we go along, it does feel like it's in your armpit.
Yeah. When he got in my armpit, he was like, you could tell he was just trying to get that part done as fast as he could, because it was like he wasn't picking it up at all, and he was just running through that. So what is it like being, because you're not just a Christian in the tattoo space, you're pretty outspoken. Like if you look through your Instagram, you have Christian artists as a hashtag, I think, a lot of times on your posts. I've seen lots of Christian imagery in the artwork that you do. What is that like, being kind of just are you known as like the Christian tattoo guy, or kind of how does that work out for you in the long run?
I think I'm just kind of known as one of the Christian tattoo artists, because there's more and more that come out here and there. Like I have a buddy that tattoos in Hot Springs, and he's just like me, or more so. Like every video, every tattoo that he does, like it's got a Christian song with it, it's got Christian rap with it. And he's the one that kind of made me think like, hey, I could, take this other direction just like he is, instead of just trying to do the coolest tattoos and, post whatever music is like popular that day or popular that week. Maybe I can incorporate some other kind of music, or, especially if I do a Christian based tattoo, obviously I want to match it. Right. I want to try to match it with a verse sometimes if it's for that person and they're getting it for a specific reason. Like I did a Samson tattoo the other day.
Oh, cool.
And so it's like his final push of the columns. Yeah. And so I put that verse in there with it, and it just felt fitting to go with it. And that's why he was getting the tattoo.
It's so funny that you said that, because we struggle at times with the reverse. So you're using Christian music because you're using that as like, but your following is so much bigger. Like you have a reach already, so you're able to use Christian songs because the reach is still going to get there. We find a lot of times when we're trying to get messages out that we have to use more secular, even if it's like instrumentals in the background. Yeah. Because if I run like YB, the Christian rapper, he goes to church here. We can run his songs and they're great, and he's a great Christian rapper. But the reach isn't the same as like Gunna, and it's like if I run it on a Gunna song, then it's gonna pop a lot of times, like because the trending audio will just pick up. Yeah. So that's interesting that you said that. Well, it's cool that there's a growing space. Do you ever get much pushback being a Christian in that space? Like,
So when I was apprentice, I was really lucky. The guy who was my mentor, he was actually a Christian guy. He wasn't early on in his career, but as time progressed, he became a Christian and stuff. And so I was really comfortable stepping into the space because all I had seen in anybody who tattooed in Cersei was bikers.
Yeah.
So like if you're a biker, you drive a Harley, you got tattoos everywhere, you smoke cigarettes, like you're a tattoo artist. And I was like, I'm not that. I was just, this skinny kid, in college, and I was going to Harding University too.
Okay.
So
I didn't know that.
yeah,
Interesting.
going to a Christian college, and I was wanting a tattoo, and it was different.
Is it even legal to get a tattoo at Harding?
It is.
What, is it?
Yeah.
I don't know if they'd kick you out.
They didn't kick me out, so
Yeah, they have some strict rules there.
They do have some strict rules. They have changed over the years. They had some different like ear piercing stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't have stretched ears at the time because they wouldn't have allowed that. But tattoos really wasn't as bad. You had some professors that might point them out, but it was never like a deal breaker. But after my apprenticeship, when I went on to work in an actual like tattoo studio that was super busy, I did get a little kickback. I got nicknames and stuff thrown at me, but it's whatever.
Have you ever? Was there much pushback from people of faith for you, or did you ever have to deal with much of that?
There was a little bit, and it wouldn't necessarily be people of faith. It would actually be people that were like anti-religious, because they would know that I was a Christian and I'd be doing a tattoo, and they're like, "So don't you think tattoos are bad? In the Bible, it says tattoos are bad. Why are you doing them?" And so I would try to have to dig a little deep and find some verses to kind of, kind of help that out. But it was always tough. It was always like a lose-lose.
Right.
But you just roll with it,
I did want to point out, so the verses, so that we stay above board on where this is in the Bible, there's two verses that stand out that people like to question when it comes to tattoos. First is Leviticus 19:28. You shall not make cuts on your body for the dead or tattoo yourself. I am the Lord. And then 1 Corinthians 6:19 through 20. Or do you not know that the body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you are bought with a high price, so glorify God with your body. I think it's interesting because then it goes on, and there's two verses that would be very clearly that there's a divine connection even to tattoos too. When you look at Isaiah 49:16, behold, I have engraved you on the palm of my hand. Your walls are continually before me. And then Revelation 19:16, on his robe, on his thigh, he has a name written, King of Kings, Lord of Lords.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting.
The Leviticus one it's a good one, and a lot of people just don't read into it and realize what it's from, but it's from people worshiping pagan idols and cutting themselves in ritual. Yeah. It had nothing to do with just getting a tattoo.
Right.
So
yeah, it was so I followed your Instagram for a long time because you're local here in town, and I always think your work is so cool when I see it. You're super hard to get booked with at times.
Everybody says that.
But you put out, or you had a cancellation, and that's how I got to get in with you. And it was funny. You were like, well, what do you want? I was like, anything as long as it's not like devilish, demonic, or a face. And you're like, well, I don't do that anyway. And I was like, that's super cool. So do you have a standard of like the things you will and won't tattoo because of your faith? Or
yeah. So I have a website too, and it has a little tab on there that says what I won't tattoo. Yeah. So no satanic tattoos, no pornographic images. And then it may sound strange, but last year I had on the website that I won't tattoo lions.
Okay.
And has nothing against lions, but I had done so many lion tattoos for so long that I couldn't find good reference photos.
That you hadn't already used.
The same photos over and over. Anyways, I've started that again this year. Lions are open.
So shout out if you want a lion tattoo.
Shout out if you want a lion. I will do a lion tattoo. But yeah, nothing satanic. Nothing that's like anti-religious in any way. Yeah. Nothing gang related. I'm not gonna do anything like that. Anything that's negative in a way that's gonna hurt somebody else. Yeah. And so if I don't know what something is, if somebody just sends me like some symbols of something, I'll ask what it is, or I'll try to look up what it is. And if I don't feel comfortable doing it, I'll just be straight up with them and just say, I'm not comfortable doing that.
That's super cool. I think it's having standards is part of like the process, especially in a space like yours that's so creative. I would assume that like print and video people who make media through video and sound and People who do all kinds of art would have to have a standard similar to that if they're going to maintain like their faith and maintain a standard in their faith. That you kind of, there's a unfortunate or fortunate line you have to draw in the sand where it's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not crossing this line. I have a standard for my life, and I'm going to be, we're in a series called Act Like Men. So you're going to act like a man, and you're going to stand up for what's right and what's wrong. You do a super cool thing. We're going to have to take a quick break, but you do a super cool thing when we come back that I don't know if everybody or people know about, where you've covered up previous tattoos of negative consequence. I kind of want to get into that and kind of get some thoughts on where that came from and what that looks like and how that's worked out for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Hang on. All right, guys, welcome back to our conversation with Nick. So when we left, Nick, you have a kind of a, can we call it a program, I guess?
Yeah, you could call it that. I used to do a free program. I'll still do it. It's just not free anymore, and I'm going to explain why on that.
And you did, so you would cover up offensive tattoos, essentially, gang-related or racial or anything like that.
Yeah, anything that fit in that category, I would cover it up.
That's pretty cool. So would you just set aside like a day of the week where it was like, today's clean up offensive tattoo day?
Yeah,
like,
pretty much I dedicated every Wednesday.
Okay.
And I would usually have 2 clients because I typically used to do an 8-hour day, so I would do 4 hours and 4 hours.
Okay.
Depending on what they needed to cover up. Some didn't take as long, some took longer.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you said it used to be free.
It used to be free.
It's not anymore.
It's not anymore.
Okay.
So there were a lot of people who were, which, I don't discriminate against anybody who wanted to get something covered up. If their life had changed and they want to make it, a life change in a way of like, I can't have this tattoo anymore because this isn't me. I did this when I was in prison, or I did this when I was in a gang, or I did this whenever. They're like, I don't want other people to think this is me. And I'm like, perfect, let's cover it up. But it got to a point where it's like someone would get out of prison, and then the next day they would call me and say, hey, I'm trying to get a job. I need to cover this up. And I'm like, well, I can cover it up for you, but it's going to be, I'm booked for 3 months. I can get you in on this date. And I would get cussed out.
Yeah.
I would get, you name it. They would get so mad just because I couldn't get them in. And I'm like, I'm doing this for you for free, but you're getting mad that I can't just drop everything I'm doing and pay to provide for my family, instead just tattoo you so you can get a job right now.
Yeah.
And so it got to be that point, and it was just really frustrating because I felt like I was trying to do something to make a change for people who needed to make a change, who had already made a change, and they just got looked down on for what they had. But it flipped the script, and if one person had, fresh out of prison or wherever they were from, and they had one tattoo that was like a racist tattoo or gang tattoo, they probably had 10 on their body.
Yeah.
And so for one client that was rude, I'm tattooing, 6 cover-ups on this one person just so they can go get a job.
It's so cool though that what sparked that idea?
I had seen another guy on social media, and I want to say he was from Texas. I can't remember his name right offhand, but he would do that. But his would always be like real quick, like 2 or 3 hour tattoos. And it would just kind of be, hey, hit me up. I'll fit you in my schedule. I don't think the guy was married or had kids or anything. He just kind of like tattooed all day, every day.
Right.
And so he had a lot of freedom to do that where I don't. And so I was like, it'd be really cool to incorporate that. But I know I can't just like charge people for it. If I'm going to offer it, I have to offer it to everybody for free. And then I had some people joke and say, well, I'm going to get a racist tattoo just so you'll do a really cool cover up for me. And I'm just like, this is not working out how I thought. But
go down like to downtown and
yeah,
get like a
just
cheap,
get like a really small, like something to be like, hey, I need you to cover this up. But I wanted to do something like that. And I did it for about 1.5 years, I want to say, for free. And then it just got to the point where it was wearing me down. And I was like, this is not what I intended it to be like. I did help a lot of people, or stories they told me that I was helping them. They would tell me, someone was like a rebel flag.
Right.
When that whole craze of like, we need to take down every rebel flag there is in America. Everybody who had a rebel flag tattoo was like, I need to cover this up.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I understand, and I covered up a ton of them. But it was the other tattoos that it was just like, it was getting out of hand. And I'm all about covering them up, and I will still cover them up. just not for free.
Yeah. You actually did a rebel flag cover up for one of the guys that's in our
Okay.
group. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, we've got a couple of guys I think who've got tattoos from you
Oh,
around here.
nice.
So yeah, super
That's
cool.
awesome.
But that's where I remember seeing it online, but he had reminded me that you did that program, that you
Yeah.
had that set up, and that's awesome. Has there been a story, like, has there been a tattoo you've done or a cover up like that that's just meant like a ton to you? Like that's the one that you remember doing, or do you just get to the point where you do so many where it's like,
Just in that group of like somebody wanting
Yeah.
to cover up a racist or a gang tattoo. Yeah, so one guy's story really stood out to me, and I want to say he was from Michigan, and he was in some gang up there. I couldn't tell you the gang, but he had a tattoo on his leg, and he's like, I can't go back to my hometown with this tattoo because I quit the gang. If I go back, I'll die. Like, they'll shoot me.
Yeah.
They see it and they see me. They know me. They'll shoot me. I'll be dead. Like, that's it. He's like, I want to go visit my grandkids because his other family still live there. And I was like, okay, yeah. And so, everybody had a story. So I would just kind of listen at first. But he really caught my attention when, like, how sincere he was. Like, he teared up at the end when I covered it up. And I was like, wow.
Yeah,
like,
that's crazy.
this guy had actually changed. And he moved to a completely different state to get away from that lifestyle. And so there were quite a few people like that I feel like were really sincere and really, were appreciative. But then he's like, thanked me that he could go back home. He actually drew me a picture because I'm kind of a nerd, especially with Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
And so he drew me a picture of my favorite character, the Hulk.
Yeah, your
still hanging in
studio's
my
got
wall.
all kinds of
so it's still,
Marvel
it's
stuff.
still hanging in my room. And it was just really cool that he, took the time to draw that for me just to thank me for covering up his tattoo. That's one that stands out to me the most.
That's super cool. Yeah, your studio is maybe the coolest. It's definitely the coolest place I've ever gotten a tattoo.
Oh, thanks.
It's like TVs on both ends. You can see, watch movies while you're getting it done. You've got cool, like, it's skateboard decks and Marvel artwork and Star Wars stuff everywhere.
Yeah, it
was
has
super
definitely
cool.
evolved over the years.
Yeah.
The more I got my own room, my own space, I was like, all right, I need to put my stuff in here. And then I was like, what am I going to talk about all day with a client? And I was like, I'll just put some TVs in here because, it just kind of helps.
It does. It's super cool.
Helps
because
pass
it's
the
like,
time or it helps create conversation or movie talk or,
no doubt.
whatever.
Yeah, that's super cool. In tattooing, what's a myth about your job that people think and it's just not true?
So, and I don't know why, but I get a lot of people that ask me if the needles are going to hit their veins.
Oh, interesting.
Especially if I'm tattooing over an area that, you can clearly see a big vein. And it doesn't go that deep. The needles don't go that deep. There's like multiple layers of skin. And it just goes into the second layer of skin, like midway through the second layer of skin. Your veins are further down than your hair follicles. So the tattoo ink that you see on people, it's not even as deep as your hair follicle.
Okay.
And so that's a big myth. I feel like a lot of people are like, are you going to hit my vein? I'm like, no. Like, if I'm hitting your vein, there's a big problem with my tattoo machine because it's not designed like that.
Is it like, like my brother became a fireman and he became obsessed with like all things fire. So he like knew different fire trucks. He knew all the equipment. Whenever you become a tattoo artist, is it one of those things? Because it seems kind of hobby and livelihood where it's like it's your passion and the way that you provide. Do you kind of nerd out on all the science, like where the ink goes, how deep it is, the different machines, all
I've
that?
nerded out quite a few times on different things just because I wanted to know.
Right.
I like to know facts about things, even if they're like weird facts. But one thing I've never been big into that a lot of tattooers is building tattoo machines.
Yeah.
I don't use that style of machine. It's a coil machine. It's the real loud ones. They're super cool. I think people that can build them are super cool, but I'm not that mechanical and I can't think that way of like putting one together. If you handed me all the parts to one, I might be able to figure it out. But will it turn on and work? I don't know.
It seems like I know nothing about y'all's world as far as the mechanics of it all, but it seems like the guys who are super artistic use the pen like you've got, where it's almost like the ability to draw and like kind of do your own thing.
And really, it's just personal preference. Like a rotary machine, which is like the new ones are like a pen style, and a lot of them are going wireless, which is just convenient,
right?
Because you don't have that extra cord that you're trying to like pull around or worry about rolling your chair over it or putting an extra sleeve over it to keep it protected.
Yeah.
And so the wireless tattoo machines have, in my opinion, have definitely been a huge leap in the industry. There's still a lot of artists out there that prefer the old school, coil machines. And to this day, they say loyal to the coil.
Yeah.
Like they won't use anything else. And that's fine too. It's like just personal preference.
Yeah. So switching away from tattooing a little bit to you and your kind of personal life. So you're a father. You have a family. What are some lessons? You have a son, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got some daughters. When you think about leading your family, when you think about the example that you set, what are some of the values that you kind of look to instill in your family?
One of them that I've said it to my son a bunch of times, like no matter what you're doing or where you're at, you need to be the one that stands out. Especially if something is not right.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a situation that's bad, you need to be the one that's like, hey, I'm out, or hey, maybe we shouldn't do this, or just kind of be different.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a big one. Going to church, absolutely. I feel like that's a big one that I've tried to instill, which honestly, that didn't really kick off until I met my wife. So I was kind of in and out of church. I would go to church with someone that I was dating at the time, or, when I was a teenager with my friend during the summer. But when I met my wife, she was already going to church.
Mm-hmm.
And I happened to move into apartments that was literally right across the street. So I had no excuse.
Right.
She was like, hey, you want to go to church with me next Sunday? And I was like, where is it? And she's like, right there. And I was like, okay.
Yep,
like I
guess we're going.
I have no excuse. And so I was like, let's go. And so I've been going ever since.
Yeah.
We can't go every Sunday. Sometimes we have some sports stuff we got to miss out on, or if somebody's sick or whatever. But we take pride in definitely attending every weekend.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we talk to so many people, and the wife is the catalyst for so many men's faith.
Mm-hmm.
And part of our mission and part of Pointman is for men to take that position as the lead in their household when it comes to their faith, teaching and raising their kids. So we have king, prophet, and priest. That's our pillars that we build Pointman on. So when we look at the Bible, we see that when we're talking to men, the Bible calls men to be kings. It's you're the leader of your household. You're the ruler. You rule with dignity and respect. You're the one who sets the standard, the example for your family. Prophet in the Bible, prophets spoke on behalf of God. For us as men, we speak truth to our families. We speak truth to the people that we work with or that we're around. But we have to build that. We have to be able to learn and grow through God's word to understand the answers to the questions when we're asked them in the first place. And then priest it's the pastor, it's the person on stage, but it's also like it's you and I when we're caring for our friends and we're caring for our community and we're involved in helping them to be the best version of themselves and to grow up. And part of that is that in that king and especially in that prophet, it's like, hey, own your faith, dude. Get into God's word. And you were just talking about you do the Bible in a year,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is awesome. If you've never done it and you're out there, start it because you go through so much. If you want a super challenge, there's the Bible in 30 days.
Oh, wow.
And it's different. Like you get in the weeds with the Bible in a year because you're getting such a small chunk each day.
Okay.
The Bible in 30 days, it's like I did half of it and had to stop because we had to study for our semester, but you get like themes. So it's like you go through Leviticus in a day.
Okay.
So you're not in the weeds of every law, but you get the theme of this and how it connects to the next piece. But owning your faith and taking that role as a leader, even if it comes because your wife stepped up first or brought you into that, and then it's great. Now I own this faith. I'm going to lead my family. I'm going to do the things that God's called me to do and to stand on that. I think it's super cool and it's important. And comes out that your faith is an important part of your life, and that's awesome. That's cool. Really, no matter who started it or how it came from, but when I came into your studio, your Bible was sitting on your couch, and it was just like it's an open part of your life. It wasn't like hidden on a shelf somewhere or it wasn't in your studio with you. And I just think that's super cool. That's a part of it, a part of your life, a big part of your life. Being a tattoo artist, you have a kind of an odd schedule, I would assume.
It starts out that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you get established, you can kind of do your own hours.
Yeah.
But I started out after my apprenticeship, I was working like 2 p.m. to 10 p.m., 5 or 6 days a week, depending on, what the holidays were and whatnot. But that was rough, especially having kids, young kids, 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. That's when I would see them. And so I didn't get a lot of time with them when they were super little, my 2 older kids. But as time went on, and then opened up kind of my own studio with a friend of mine. Was going to change my hours to where they benefited me more. And so we were like, we should do 12 to 8, because 12 to 8 o'clock's not too late, but it's still late enough for people to get off work, come and get a tattoo, if it's a walk-in. And then as time went on from that and the busier I got, I was like, maybe people would get tattooed at 10 a.m. And then I can be done by 6. And then it kind of progressed from that. And now I do 10 to 4 most of the time. I'll still do 10 to 6 if somebody wants a longer appointment. But with volleyball and band and soccer and just like I've always got something to do. And last year, a lot of my oldest daughter's volleyball started at like 5 or 5:30. I didn't get off till 6 or 6:30, so I missed a lot of it. And I definitely want to be there for them for that kind of stuff, even though it might not seem significant to them now, I guess. But when they get a family of their own, they'll think back. They're like, well, my dad was at my games.
Yeah, you're setting an example.
Yeah. I know not every job can allow that, but I've kind of gotten to that point. But it has definitely taken me a long time. I've been doing it for 14 years, so I would say for probably 12 of those, it was not the hours that I would want, but it's definitely gotten better over the past 2 or 3.
So what were some things maybe that you did intentionally to stay connected to your family and to your kids when you were working kind of some crazier hours?
So I get up every morning and take them to school.
Yeah.
And so I would see them every single morning. My wife's not a morning person and I am. So we kind of were like, hey, I'll take them to school every day.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of our conversation time or, hangout time in a way. Even though it was only for like 30, 45 minutes. But it was still, I think it's something they'll maybe remember when they get older.
You had that intentional time with them. You were investing in them even. Yeah.
Because when I was a kid, I got up on my own. I had to go catch the bus. I rode the bus to school. But they were like, well, why can't we ride the bus? I was like, well, trust me, you don't want to ride the bus. And second, I'll take you to school. Yeah. Like, it's no big deal.
No doubt. Well, very cool. What's your favorite part of your job? What's the thing that gets you up and gets you excited to go into...
I really kind of back to the instant gratification thing and being able to still do art every single day.
Yeah.
A lot of people ask me, they're like, oh, do you go home and do other artwork? And I'm just like, honestly, I don't, because it never fails if I create something at home, because a lot of it's on my iPad. It'll be something that slowly turns into a tattoo design, and then I just tattoo it on somebody. Yeah. So I feel like, I think this is my art. Right. Like, this is my release of like whatever it is. With the exceptions of doing what the client wants. Right. There's exceptions where some people kind of let me do what I want every now and then. But I think just getting to do art every single day and get paid for it, I think is like super cool. Like something that I've always wanted to do. I just never knew it would be with tattoos.
You were telling me you like to tattoo food?
I do like tattoo food, yeah.
That's such a wild thing. I saw there's a picture on your Instagram of a hamburger. Yeah. It's actually our co-host. It's normally a podcast. It's a buddy of his at work who has it. He sent it to me. He was like, hey, this is this dude I work with. He's got this hamburger tattoo.
Ninja Turtle burger? Is
I
that
think
the
so.
one?
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Yeah. And they were like, why didn't you make it pizza? I was like, it just looked cooler as a burger.
Yeah.
But it's just some artwork I had found online. And I was like, it has to do with food and Ninja Turtles. I was like, I'm doing it for sure. Somebody will get it.
And your style for people who care about tattoos in general is like more realistic and kind of...
Yeah, more realism than anything else. I feel like, which I kind of do. I'll do any style. It doesn't matter to me what style it is, but I prefer realism. And that just goes back to my childhood. I would draw realistic things. I would look at something and draw it. And so that's just something that I've always been, I guess, better at. It's hard for me to just think of an idea out of my head. I have to look at something to draw something. Even if you wanted a tattoo of a coffee mug, I'd have to look at a coffee mug while I drew it. And then it wouldn't be realistic unless I took that picture, made a stencil of it, and then referenced it while I was tattooing. I can draw a coffee mug, but it'll be kind of cartoony. Yeah. Kind of new school or, illustrative. But
is that kind of where your brain leans, is to the new school side?
It always leans. So if I'm drawing it, it definitely leans towards new school or illustrative, where it's a little bit... it has a thick outline, but it looks kind of realistic, so it's kind of cartoony. That's kind of where it goes every time.
So what is since all of the the TV shows have come out, everybody became a tattoo connoisseur.
Yeah.
Is it
Everybody's a critic too. Everybody's like, "Oh, I watched Ink Master. I know what you're doing. Is that a single needle?" It's so funny when people say stuff like that. It makes me laugh so hard.
like everybody's got 14 years of work
Yeah,
under
yeah. They're like, "I know exactly what you're doing right now." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, that's hilarious. First time I got a tattoo, the first time I got one that was of any size and consequence. I remember they did the outlining and I was like, it looks so bad. And then I was just like, I'm not gonna look at it for the rest of the time. And then he got done and I really liked it, but it was just like in my mind, I was like, this isn't gonna turn out at all. He's not gonna do anything else with it. I just wanted to like leave and go have somebody else fix it. It actually worked out really well, but
Yeah.
I just remember that. And so from that point on, anytime I got one, I'll look now because I like have gotten to the point where it's like, okay, it's not done till it's done. But there's stages when you're getting tattooed whenever you don't know everything where you're like, oh, this is not gonna work out very well.
Yeah.
Especially I have like cartoony tattoos, a little more cartoony, so it's like they don't look like anything really until they're done.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're like, oh, that's where we were going.
I get a lot of people still to this day. I will lay the stencil on their skin and they'll look at the stencil and they'll be like, "Can you see what's going on with the stencil?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I got my reference photo right here."
Yeah.
Like, they're like, "Okay." I'm like, I don't know what to say to that. I'm just like, "Yeah, I promise I'll make this look like this picture."
It's like, because I think from your eyes, you can see the shading before you even get started. But for a lay person who has no clue what the end product's gonna look like, I just look at it and I'm like, that's a bunch of just nothing.
Yeah, yeah, it looks kind of like a paint by number. Or
Yeah, it
something.
kind of does. Yeah, that's true. What's the biggest tattoo artist pet peeve? Like, what should people not do if they're coming in to get a tattoo?
Don't bring a bunch of people with you.
Yeah,
Like, if you want to bring one person to hang out, which, with me, it's different. I have my own room.
Right.
So it's like I have a little couch over there. People can hang out. But I don't know what it is when people are like, I'm going to go get a tattoo and take all of my friends. Because there's
the whole community is coming with me.
They're like, this is my team. And they're all here to tell me what the best option is for my tattoo.
Yeah.
And I can tell you probably every tattooer out there is like, as soon as that crowd of people walk in, they know only one person is getting tattooed.
Yeah.
And it's like, here's your design. And they're like, all right, let me go show my friends. Let me go show my family real quick. And then something's got to change with it. Something's got to be different. It's got to be moved a little bit.
So you're like working with 5 people.
You're working with the whole group instead of just one. Yeah, that's got to be the bigger pet peeve for walk-in stuff. For appointments, it's a little different because it's kind of straightforward what people are going to get.
Kind of handled before. Is there, do you have a story, like a funny story that stands out from maybe your early days before you were kind of more established and had your own studio, like just something silly that happened?
I mean, there's been a lot of crazy stories. I mean, there's been people that have, which not everybody passes out when they get a tattoo, but I've seen people pass out and say weird things or maybe go to the bathroom on themselves, like those are kind of funny stories to be there to witness it. I've had people that, they're all tough. They come in, they have tattoos. So I'm like, okay, well, they're good. And as soon as I start to tattoo them, it's like they've never been tattooed ever. And they jump around like I'm trying to hurt them.
Yeah.
And those are always kind of funny stories after the fact, not during, because during is not funny at all. But
like trying to hold
fact,
somebody down.
Yeah. And then they'll have those people that, again, when they bring someone with them, it's like they have to hold their hand while they get tattooed. And I'm like, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
All you're doing is making them move because they're, holding your hand and they're squeezing your hand or whatever. But
it's like if you have to come get your hand squeezed the whole time you're getting a tattoo, maybe it wasn't for you in the first place.
But I've told people before, I've been like, look, we don't have to do this tattoo.
Yeah.
Like, if it hurts you that bad, like, I'm not forcing you to get it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to do it. They're like, no, I want it. And they're like, come hold my hand. I'm like, okay.
It's like, this is life or death. We must get this tattoo.
Yeah.
So before we get out of here, I just want to wrap up with, is there anything that you, from all of your experience, all of your time as a tattoo artist and as a father and as a Christian and a believer, is there something that you would say to men who may be in a non-traditional career path or something that's a little different that would not be the normal 9-to-5 space? Is there a lesson or something that you would tell them to help them to be a believer and to continue their faith and to grow in their faith as they kind of move through life?
I mean, it kind of goes back to what I said that I tell my son is just, just be different, whatever that may be. Maybe you work in an office and you go to lunch once a week with the office and everybody's, they'll have a beer or they'll have whatever. You could just be like, oh, no, thanks. None for me. Or if you go to like and we don't have it because I'm a tattooer, so we don't have like get-togethers with the office or, corporate events or anything like that. But just kind of setting yourself apart in a way, not like where it's hurtful to the other people, but where you're just like, oh, no, thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Just kind of politely just being different, I guess.
I like that.
Politely being different.
I think that's
the way to put it?
So fitting for to be tattooed and to be a tattooer. That is different.
Yeah.
And so for you to say like, the thought is to just be different, to stand out, that's so cool. I think it's a good synergy with the whole conversation around kind of your life and what you do and all of that. Well, man, I so appreciate this. This is super cool.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it too. It's been really fun.
This is very cool. Well, this has been the Pointman podcast. I'm Zach. This is Nick. We hope that you will like and subscribe and hang out with us as we've got more episodes, semester messages, and all kinds of things here on the YouTube channel, as well as if you like and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all of the places where all the things come out. Do that. Come hang out with us, and let's grow. Let's grow as men. It's going to be an awesome year.